I am having a wonderful chat with the apparently soon-to-be snowbound Paul Watkins, cellist, Emerson String Quartet. He has been a member of the Emerson String Quartet since about 2013, I believe, replacing the fabulous David Finkel. And let's just the Emerson String Quartet is going to be performing under UCSB Arts and Lectures sponsorship at Campbell Hall on the University of California, Santa Barbara campus on Saturday, February 7th. And I believe this is the only performance in California this year. You'd have to check your schedule, probably.
I'd have to check. I could. In fact, I think we've got one in Stanford a couple of nights before.
Yeah.
And also in Sonoma State University, I believe. I think there are 3 trips. We normally, when we come to California, we like to do a couple of concerts at least, just to...
Makes sense on behalf of your booking agent, doesn't it?
Exactly.
But in terms of Southern California, we're talking, 17 million people in the greater Los Angeles area. I suggest that all of you Emerson String Quartet fans make a reservation, get yourselves up to Santa Barbara on Saturday, February 7th. The concert, the recital is at 7 o'clock at Campbell Hall, as I said. And by the way, student tickets are $15. How can you go wrong? Those in Southern California who would like to grab tickets while you have a chance, let me give you the telephone number. In Santa Barbara, it's area code 805-893-3535. Now, as I said just a moment ago, Paul is the newest member of Emerson String Quartet. And here, let me just run this down, and then I'll pose the challenge. 9 Grammy Awards, 3 Gramophone Awards, American Fisher Prize, 30-plus recordings, on and on. The new Chamber Music America, this is your most recent award, the National Service Award. How on earth were you prepared to jump into this kind of responsibility?
I've no idea. I don't know how I actually managed to do it. It's a great treat to be asked to join a group like this. Absolutely fantastic opportunity for me. But I didn't really think about all of that august history when I took it. I was just kind of seduced by the guys. They're just such wonderful musicians and wonderful people. It just they're so welcoming, and also the repertoire is so fantastic. It's just great to be given the chance to do something. This is frankly something that I wanted to do since I was a teenager, and my life took me in direction through jobs as an orchestra and conducting, which of course I still do. The ensemble in London, the National Ensemble. Took me a long and winding path to get to the Emerson Quartet, but thank goodness I'm here now. It's great.
Yes, and may I say, they themselves, I think I mentioned, we had a little chat yesterday, have said that it's a great treat working with you. So apparently it's a match made in some kind of musical heaven, yeah?
It seemed to work very well. It was, the initial weekend that we spent playing together was really it was it wasn't quite a blind date, because I had played with Phil Setzer and with Larry Dutton so it was a little bit of a blind date, certainly with me and Gene Drucker. But I think it would be fair to say that from the moment we started reading some quartets, I think the Ravel Quartet and Beethoven's Opus 18 No. 1 and Shostakovich's 7th Quartet were amongst the pieces that we played that afternoon. It seemed pretty clear to all of us that it was going to work, and it clicked. I think that's what we.
Yes, and those, by the way, we're having a tiny little bit of interference now and again, but that's Skype for you. And besides, there's a blizzard taking shape outside of Paul's window.
I can see it warming up. Well, if that's not really the word, cooling down, actually.
And let's just talk about the program just a little bit. Yeah. Mozart, the G major quartet, Spring. Ravel, the F major string quartet. And Beethoven, one of the first of the last 4 quartets, the Opus 127. This is a very interesting match, young men, Mozart and Beethoven, and then the Ravel from 1903. How you mentioned that you even read apparently the Ravel when you first sat down and
right.
tried each other out, as it were.
Well, the Ravel Quartet is a piece that I actually have some performance experience of in any case, because during the last few years that I was in the Nash Ensemble in London, we turned our attention to string quartets a little bit because we happen to have a wonderful group of string players. It all worked together very nicely. So we added sort of 10 or so quartets to our repertoire, which tended to be more of the similar repertoire to the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center, that kind of mixed strings and winds repertoire.
Yeah.
But Ravel Quartet was one that we performed a number of times. But the Mozart is a piece that I'd only known really from chamber music parties, from reading. And the Beethoven, which perhaps in a way is the one I'm the most excited about, because the late quartets of Beethoven are they're one of those mountains that you've got to climb as quickly as possible, really, when as soon as possible, rather, when you get into a string quartet. That's something that's incredibly rich and fulfilling to me, you know.
Yes, and let's just remind everyone that we're speaking of Beethoven at this point in the last years of his life, totally, completely deaf.
Yes.
And those last quartets and a great deal of piano music, the sonatas, a lot of the latter works, he is clearly somewhere else. He is in the 20th century, maybe even the beginning of the 21st century. He has moved way beyond the people of his time.
There are things in these quartets. And the Opus 127, as you rightly said, is the start of the set. You know, he moves on then really into other universes. Actually, you know, there are some of these later quartets, but 130, the Grosse Fuge, of course, which is just this amazing forward-looking statement. You know, it's really like playing music that's been written yesterday. You know.
Stunning. Now, let's just diverge just a touch, because I do want to speak a little bit about your conducting career. I know that you have mentioned that you've kind of, no one should be surprised, put it a little bit on the back burner. But what initiated that kind of moment where you became a conductor for a while, and not with little amateur groups at all, right at the highest levels?
Well, it started really when I realized that my piano playing, which is something that was always very, very dear to me, and my late grandmother, when I was a kid, taught me the piano. As the first thing, there was a piano in the home, and that's how I started music. And I've always kept my piano playing up to a certain level, certainly to the level where I can play chamber music, read sonatas.
Wow.
With friends and colleagues, mainly for fun. But when I realised that I was going to concentrate really on the cello as my main instrument, I really wanted to keep the piano going in some way, or at least have that feeling of having all the notes, the whole piece under one's hand, which is rare, of course, unless you're playing unaccompanied cello music. You're playing bass lines, and you have to collaborate with other people. Just that feeling of really being in control of the whole thing, and I think that kind of translated itself into the little white stick in the end.
You know, that's fascinating. I've never quite heard it described in that manner, that like the piano, like being a pianist, as a conductor, you are in charge of the whole thing, as you said. Fabulous. And will you be getting back to conducting, or is that really on the back burner?
No. I hope so. It's starting to come. You know, if the snow melts within the next couple of weeks, I'm looking forward to conducting the Stony Brook Symphony Orchestra. So that's at the State University of New York, where the Emerson Quartet is quartet in residence. And they've finally invited me to conduct a program there. Rachmaninoff's Symphonic Dances in the second half, so I'm very excited to be doing that again. And I'm hoping to do more in the States as the years go by.
You know, and we've had this conversation a little bit earlier. Your brother Hugh is
Yes.
a composer, and one dabbles a little bit, but I think one has to really be somehow something, whatever that thing is, called composer. Have you dabbled, and what were the results?
I dabbled in my teens. It was often to impress girls, actually. Frankly, to be seeing as we're being frank with each other here. I went to a music school, in fact. So actually, we were all encouraged. It was the Yehudi Menuhin School of Music. In fact, we were encouraged to indulge in as wide a range of musical activities as possible, not just to be narrowly concentrated on our solo instruments, but to compose and play chamber music and all sorts of things. And there was a very inspirational composition teacher there at the time, Simon Parkin, who was just a wonderful guy. And he got me to compose, and I enjoyed it for a few years, but then I realized that I didn't have that burning desire every time I got up, in the morning to write something down, which I think real composers have. It's a compulsion, you know.
Well, and it's like writing a novel. I mean, one has to have the patience to create, a 10-minute piece over 4 months. I mean, it's
Exactly.
horrendous. By the way, what, if I may just pry just a teensy-weensy bit, are there these, what do you do for relaxation? I mean, have you a secret interest?
So, well, not so much a secret interest. It was an interest that was awakened when I was at the Menuhin School again by yet another. It had a wonderful, wonderful teaching faculty while I was there, and well, still does in fact. But this is going back into the 80s. An English teacher by the name of Kevin Jones who got me to act. And in some fairly advanced plays, we did a Carson McCullers play, The Ballad of the Sad Cafe. We did Waiting for Godot. We did All My Sons of Arthur Miller. He would mount these pretty impressive productions. And I thought when I arrived at the Menuhin School that I was far too shy to do something like, you know, get up on stage and prance around. But he obviously saw something, and so really the acting in the theatre and movies and TV miniseries. I mean, that's a sort of guilty secret that a lot of people have these days. Binge watching. I'm in the middle of series 2 of House of Cards at the moment, which is absolutely tremendous. Enjoying all of that. If I had endless free time, I'd be in the theatre, I think.
Well, I'm so glad I asked the question because it speaks volumes about your own behavior that we can witness at UCSB Arts and Lectures. They have a lovely little video up. It's a rehearsal in one of the apartments, and you are so fabulously full of personality. It's the comfort with which you speak with your colleagues and present yourself. Suddenly that makes quite a good deal of sense. And I think we can agree that it's very important to be a well-rounded artist, to have interests and to know about the literature, the history, everything of the world in which we are performing these, for example, Beethoven's world.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, this is something that I feel very fortunate to share with my colleagues, you know, because Gene Drucker, for example, when he was studying, he was a double major at Juilliard and also did a Shakespeare and English literature course at Columbia University. So he's steeped in that sort of tradition. Philip Setzer is a great theatre goer. His wife Linda is a fabulous actress, in fact, and performs quite a lot around the New Jersey area, TV series. But you know, people, the 3 other guys in the quartet share these interests actually. So yeah, and everything feeds off everything else.
Exactly, and I'm sure it's reflected in the playing really at deep levels, because we are speaking about music that has numerous sub-basements of meaning and intellect and all the rest. That's why we're speaking about great art, really.
Exactly.
Okay, the last question. Paul Watkins, thank you very, very much for giving me a moment of your time, a little bit of your time on a day off while the blizzard roars outside, and you might even have a couple of days off. We'll see. Give me that little bit. We spoke earlier about it, but that moment where you, as a youth, decided, you know, this life, this artistic life, is going to be for me.
Yes, exactly. Well, since we last spoke, there was certainly an incident when my rector of music at the Menuhin School heard me play the cello and the piano in the same concert, and came up to me afterwards. And I was 13 at the time, so not used to people really sharing these thoughts with me. And this was a very deep thinking musician, a very intense man. And he said, "Paul, I really think that your voice lies with the cello. You know, that's the thing that speaks to me." And that was very interesting. And then a few years later, as that information was sort of percolating through my system, another teacher of mine, who is now the current director of music at the Menuhin School, I think I was 16, 17, thinking about the next stage after the Menuhin School. And I asked him, you know, what should I do? Do you think I'll be okay? Because it's a precarious step, you know, and a precarious profession. And he just said to me, he just said, "Don't worry, Paul, you'll never have to worry about putting food in your mouth or having a roof over your head, because you'll be able to do that through music." And that was a real vote of confidence. And he wasn't a man who was sort of effusive in his praise. And that really clicked. And I thought, you know, wow, maybe I can do this, because it wasn't in my family at all professional. very much as devoted amateurs. Both my parents love music, and my dad's an amateur viola player and violinist. My mother sings and taught music at a high school, but they'd not had any experience of the performing arts professionally. So it was a bit of a leap.
Yes, and it is a great risk, we know.
Yeah.
A very small percentage of people can, as you have just said, make a substantive and successful living, raise a family, be comfortable. So, first of all, congratulations. Then let me just do duty to the Emerson String Quartet. Violinist Eugene Drucker, Philip Seltzer, violist Lawrence Dutton, and yourself.
Yes.
Saturday evening, February 7th, 7 o'clock in the evening for all of those in Southern California who need to get up to Santa Barbara from Los Angeles. 7 o'clock, UCSB Campbell Hall on the University of California Santa Barbara campus. Telephone number, and it's important that you call now to buy tickets. This hall seats about 800 people, is area code 805 in Santa Barbara, area code 893-3535. I presume you will not be needing to shovel your way out of the house, maybe? Surely you'll call in staff.
I think by then, if it hasn't melted, I'm going to call someone in because I don't want to break my back.
There you go. Paul, many thanks. Thanks very much. Looking forward to see you on the 17th.
Thank you
7th of February. Righto. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.